Do you struggle to find your voice in a noisy world? Do you feel your voice lacks confidence and energy to accurately communicate your thoughts, ideas, and passions? Do you wish there was an easy way to give your voice what it needs to captivate your audience every time? My name is Clay Collins, and like you, I struggled with these issues for years. But I found a blueprint that can help you change the way you think about your voice and therefore the way your voice comes across to others. Welcome to the My Voice Mentor podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the My Voice Mentor podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today's going to be an interesting episode because we're going to deal with something that probably every vocalist, every speaker, every singer, especially singers, fear, which is like botching it, blowing it massively on stage, or, hopefully this hasn't happened to too many of you out there who are singing on a platform, but it's probably a fear that every singer, every vocalist has at least contemplated, and probably, depending on how long you've been singing, you have experienced those wildly epic fails, like not just slightly out, but epically. Let's just let's just say it for what it is. Like, have you ever had a time where you absolutely just bombed on stage vocally? Maybe you went for that high note and it just wasn't there. Maybe you just blew out your voice early in the song and it just fell apart. Well, that's what today is all about. But before we get into today's episode, I want to make you aware of a free 5-day vocal bootcamp where I walk you through some of my favorite tips and tricks that I have used on myself and pretty much every student that has ever gone through my program. I want to give them to you for free. All you've got to do is click on the link in the description or go to myvoicementor.com/bootcamp, and I will send that over to you super fast. I want you to get that because I want you to be able to have some tools right now to begin improving your voice and removing vocal strain and all of that good stuff. So do me a favor and go ahead and go over to myvoicementor.com/bootcamp. Click on the link in the description, or if I've got the little thing on the right, you can go ahead and click on that. But at any rate, I know you can get there. You definitely want to sign up for that. It's absolutely free, and I want to give that to you. So today we're going to take a look at a famous musical theater artist, Idina Menzel, who you might know for her classic performance of Let It Go from the Frozen movie that was such a big sensation several years ago. And so what we're going to look at is what some might call an epic fail. It was about 7 years ago in the New Year's Eve big event that year. It was the big ball dropping. She was the feature performer and she was singing the theme song to Frozen, Let It Go. And really something happened at the very tail end of it that shocked everybody that was listening. I was actually watching it in real time. And when I heard it, I was like, whoa, it was so bad. It was so bad. Now, we're going to be talking about it today, not for the purpose of running her through the mud at all. In fact, quite the opposite. She is an amazing artist. She's an amazing singer. But I thought this was a great example that even the pros, even the ones at the top of their game, missed the note. And so really, honestly, the first thing that I want to say is thank you to Idina for letting the rest of us know that there is no such thing as a perfect voice who nails it every single time. There's no such thing. And so honestly, one of the best things that people like that are on a different plane from the rest of us vocally can give us is, hey, you know what? I miss it sometimes too. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to go to the clip, and you can actually click on the link in the show notes if you want to see the whole performance. The truth of the matter is the performance, by and large, was quite good. She was doing fine, but right at the end of the performance, things kind of fell apart. So I just want to fast forward to the very end. I want to make sure that I honor the copyright agreement, and we're just going to do a clip of it, but you can click on the link and see the whole thing. But I just want to highlight the finale note, which is the most important note of the song. And here's what happened. So there it is. Okay, you heard it. That she just didn't quite get that note. Wow. And it was literally the last 10 seconds of the song. And when that happens, it's an unfortunate thing because that's a 4-minute long song that's very demanding vocally. Unfortunately, most people remembered that last note. And it's just a reality. We got to deal with it. But it's all either happened to us or it will happen to us at some point in our career. So I want to talk about it. First of all, I want to talk about what probably contributed and why she had a hard time. I want to kind of analyze what was happening vocally so that I can maybe help you singers out there prepare your voice for such a thing. Now, I want to say right out of the gate, her voice was in its prime. This was not a fail of ability. I think most people probably understand that, but I just want to say right out of the gate that she was at the prime of her vocal ability. So that doesn't mean that something like that can't happen. But I want to, for the sake of learning, I want to kind of break apart some of the things that might have fell apart in her voice while it was happening. If you go back and listen to the recording, and you heard a little bit of it there, one of the things that I noticed as a voice coach that I think really contributed is she was really hitting those notes really, really hard. She was hitting them in full chest. She was really going rah into her voice early on in the song. And the truth of the matter is that if you don't pace yourself as a vocalist, if you know that that high note is coming and it's kind of like the same thing happens to a runner. If you know that you've got to make it the distance, you've got to plan your game early on in the run to make sure that you've got the energy that you're going to need in the 11th hour as you're racing towards the finish line. Now, here's the deal. It can still happen to anybody, but it's always good to take a look back and say, okay, how could maybe Idina have maybe approached this situation a little bit differently? Now, another thing that I haven't talked about yet too, that had probably a lot of determination in what kind of fell apart is the conditions in New York City on New Year's Eve. I can tell you, I used to live in New York. I know how cold it gets in December and January. It gets brittly cold. Now, you take potentially freezing weather. Now, I was looking at her outfit. She wasn't wearing winter weather. So maybe it wasn't that cold, but I believe that it was. I'd have to actually go back and check. But I know it's very possible in December for the temperature to be in the teens or even single digits. And I want to tell you, as a singer, if you're singing outdoors, singing in single digit or double digit temperatures is extremely difficult. And then you pair that with a very difficult song, already she's set up for some problems. But then when she went to sing it, she was maybe getting caught up with all the energy, all the people, and everybody's shouting, "Hi!" And she's just, maybe the adrenaline is kicking in. Well, and again, my humble estimate, she kind of overshot it early on in the performance. You can hear it if you go listen. She's singing it right nice and full. And then when she needed to go for that high note, it just failed her. The next thing that I want to kind of let you singers know out there, that you cannot barrel your way to a high note. That's, in my opinion, that's what fell apart for her. She said, I'm just going to throw my arms at it. You can't do that. Oh my gosh. It always reminds me of that game at Chuck E. Cheese. It's the one with the hammer where you hit the hammer and it goes up, and it says right out on the front of it in bold letters, this is a game of skill, not a game of strength. Because if you hit that hammer too hard, you're not gonna, but that's the first thing you think. If I just hit it hard as I can, that's the name of the game. But no, it's a game of skill because you can overshoot it. When it comes to high notes, it's important that you hit the right register so that when you hit the right note, you're hitting the note you want with the power you want, but in the right register, right? And in her case, the problem was she aimed for the wrong register. And what happens is when you're in a register, that register has a ceiling. You can't go above it. No amount of pushing is going to get you above that ceiling. And that's really what happened. She hit the ceiling of the lower chest register, and no amount of pushing was going to get it up to the next level. As it turns out, ironically, to get to the higher register, you have to learn how to back off the energy, back off the air, and aim for it. Now, that only happens in practice. That only happens in times when the conditions are good, and you're literally, as I call it, shooting darts at a dartboard. Because a lot of singing and a lot of aiming for the right register is shooting at a note repeatedly in the right way at the right register until your muscles know exactly how to position themselves for that note. But again, when you throw in cold weather, high energy, adrenaline, it's completely understandable how this could have happened. And it's absolutely no fault of Idina. I think we've established that. But we can always learn, and that's the first thing I have had to learn how to shoot for these notes in different registers in the right way so that I'm not causing vocal strain or muscular strain surrounding the larynx. Very, very important. But the next thing that I want to talk about, and maybe this is the most important thing that we could ever learn from Idina, is how do we handle when or if, I say when because it is a matter of time. If you spend any amount of time on a platform, something like this is going to happen to you in some way or another. I just want to prepare you for that now. You're going to blow it. And how should we handle if this were to happen to us? And this is where I want to look at Idina a little bit. And I would say the way Idina handled this is probably, I'd give her maybe a B+. She handled it with grace. And I think it was really good. I think her response was something along the lines of, my career is not determined on one event. And she's absolutely right about that. But I want to encourage all of us to maybe prepare our hearts for when this event might happen to you, because it's going to happen. Hopefully not on that level, hopefully not on that kind of stage. But if it should happen to you, how should we handle it? How should we handle it emotionally? How do we keep it from crushing us and causing us never to sing again or never to grace a platform again? We don't want that to happen. Well, being a potentially critical person, I'm very self-critical. Like I have to fight that on a daily basis. Part of it is good because I'm always stretching, wanting to do better. I know we had an episode recently about perfectionism. Well, I've had to work on perfectionism in myself. We never want to take a bad experience and make it worse by quitting or never trying again. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is turn negative situations into a positive. And you're like, how in the world do we do that? Well, one of the things that I did for myself years ago is I just made a deal with myself every time. And I still do this to this day. Every time I get onto a platform, I make a deal with myself. It's almost like an inner vow, but it's a good one. I make a deal with myself that I will forgive myself in advance for any mistake, any blowing it, any epic fail that I might do. I just make a deal with myself before it happens. This is going to be my response. And so that when it happens, I'm already prepared for it. It's almost like when you prepare for that kind of a scenario, you're already prepared for your response. And then you just know what your response is. Oh, I made a deal with myself back then. It's not that it kind of is. It's like you're believing for the worst, hoping for the best. Now, some people want to say, well, that's negative. Why would you ever believe for the worst? Well, to prepare for it. It's much better to go into a hard situation if you're prepared, right? So of course we don't want that to happen, but chances are it's going to. So it's much better to be prepared. So the way that I prepare is I just forgive myself in advance. And I say, if that should happen, I'm going to smile, laugh, and just say, well, that's what that was, kind of. So I would say my big encouragement, like if I was sitting across from Idina, my Lord, I say that humbly, but if I was sitting across from her as her vocal coach, I would say, you know what, if that ever happens again, go ahead and just put yourself on the chopping block and just say, gah! Almost like Will Ferrell from The Elf. Did you hear that? Right? Did you hear that? That was awful. Sometimes kind of in a very confident way, putting yourself on the chopping block can actually do more than trying to keep your reputation or keep your status as a vocalist who never makes a mistake. Sometimes falling on a sword can have very beneficial impact. In fact, I can honestly say in the people in my life that have done that I've seen they've done that, and they didn't do it like, oh, I'm so terrible. They did it like laughing at themselves and using it as an opportunity to win people over. It's had a huge impact on me. In fact, it's what inspires me to just say, you know what, if I miss a note, just laugh. I've been on a platform where I missed a note and I literally laughed in the middle and everybody laughed with me. And then we were able to move on from it quickly and go right back into it. And I'm telling you, in those moments, nothing endears you to people more than you just reminding them, I'm a human being. I've been working at this a while, but I'm not perfect. And so one of the things that really just for me helps me so much is reminding myself, I'm not perfect. No amount of work, no amount of practice, no amount of striving is ever going to enter me into the world of perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect voice. There's no such thing as a flawless voice. We're all flawed. We are all working through something. So let that be an encouragement to you that you don't have to be perfect. If you're a singer, you don't have to be perfect. If you're a content creator and maybe you're doing a podcast or maybe you're presenting in front of people, you don't have to be perfect. I always say progress beats perfect. As long as you're on a journey to improving yourself, that's really the only thing you should measure yourself on. Don't try to measure yourself against perfection. You're not perfect. So go ahead and relieve yourself of that pressure now. And so today, that's really what it's all about. We don't have to be perfect. So let's stop trying. Let's just be the very best we can be. Let's just keep on our journey. Don't let anything take you off the journey of building and strengthening your voice. You're going to have it your whole life. It is worth your investment. So I want to leave you with this. Your voice needs 3 things to prosper, to win, to get an edge, to get ahead. You need good training, you need a good coach, and you need community. Well, My Voice Mentor offers all 3 of those things. So if you're ready to start launching your vocal journey, go ahead and go to myvoicamentor.com/bootcamp to get started. I can't wait to see you on the inside. I've got so many things to share with you. But in the meantime, think about what I've shared with you today. And if you haven't already, go ahead, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification. That way you'll know when new episodes are posted. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, go to the show page and give us a 5-star review. And that will really help us reach a wider audience. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I can't wait to see you next week.